Greetings everyone, today my presentation is on specific measures in prevention of airborne infections. First I will talk about infection controls at hospital. There are work practices and other measures designed to prevent transmission of infectious agents, which is to break the chain of contagion from patient to patient, patient to healthcare worker to patient, healthcare worker to healthcare worker, and also to visitors. A combination of measures designed to minimize transmission of respiratory pathogens in healthcare settings. These measures targeted to all patients with symptoms of respiratory infection, beginning at point of initial encounter, such as clinicians' offices, reception and triage of emergency departments, ambulatory clinics. Important measures to prevent airborne infection in hospital include posted signs and alerts to patients and family members. One must cover mouth and nose when coughing with tissues or masks. Washing hands with warm water and soap or alcohol-based hand rub, which contains more than 60% alcohol, should be done to maintain hand hygiene, and to maintain proper hand hygiene after contact with respiratory secretions. It is important to conduct a spatial separation, ideally more than 3 feet, of persons with respiratory infections, whenever possible. Besides that, droplet precautions also essential for healthcare workers, who provide care to patients with possible respiratory infections. Gloves should be worn when contacting potentially contaminated sites or handling materials too. Limiting patient movement or transport to essential purposes only is another method to minimize chance of getting airborne infection. Besides that, patient with disease like H1N1 should be isolated in private room with monitored negative air pressure, which has 6 to 12 air changes per hour. The room also requires high-efficiency particulate air filtration for recirculated air. Healthcare workers need to wear respirators, with minimum N95 when handling these patients. For droplet precautions, there is no special ventilation requirements. Door of private room may remain open, and mask is used when providing direct care or within 3 feet of patient. When possible, non-immune healthcare workers should not care for patients or residents with vaccine-preventable airborne diseases, such as measles and chickenpox. Next I will describe on personal protective equipment, PPE, in details. PPE used for pandemic influenza include gloves, which protect hands, gowns or aprons to protect skin and clothing, P2 or N95 respirators, that is able to protect mouth and nose, a protective eyewear to protect eyes, and also face shield, which can protect face, mouth, nose and eyes. The sequences and methods for donning PPE is important to ensure the person is fully protected from airborne infections. It starts by performing hand washing, then wear gown and then P2 or N95 respirator. Next is perform fit check on P2 or N95 respirator, followed by wearing protective eyewear or face shield. Perform fit check again for respirator after wearing eyewear or face shield, and then wear gloves. Lastly, stop and check again whether everything is correctly worn. When wearing gown, remember to select the appropriate type and size of gown. The opening is in the back and it is secured at neck and waist. One needs to ensure that all clothing is covered. When P2 or N95 respirator is worn, a fit check must be performed. This is done by inhaling and exhaling. During inhalation, your respirator should collapse slightly, and during exhalation, your respirator should expand. Remember to check for air leakage around face. If mask does not collapse, expand or air leakage or fogging of glasses or protective eyewear is observed. Check seals around bridge of nose and check if mask is crooked, bunched or folded. Then fit check mask again. For gloves, one must select correct glove size. Put the first glove over your hand, then pull the end of the glove over the cuff of your gown. Repeat this for the other hand. After contacting patients with airborne disease, one must remember the correct sequence for removing PPE, preventing from infected by airborne diseases. Gloves must be removed first, followed by first hand washing. Then, remove your protective eyewear, followed by gown, and perform hand washing for second time. Next, remove your respirator, before washing hand for the third time. Environmental controls is another measure to be highlighted. It includes proper ventilation by means of natural and mechanical ventilation, ultraviolet germicidal irradiation, filtration and other methods of air cleaning. The principle is to dilute the infectious particles through real or effective air exchange. Natural ventilation refers to fresh dilution air that enters and leaves a room or other area, though openings such as windows or doors. On the other hand, mechanical ventilation uses fans to drive the airflow through a building. Mechanical ventilation can be fully controlled and combined with air conditioning and filtration systems as is normally done in some office buildings. Mechanical ventilation also includes mixed-mode ventilation, in which exhaust and/or supply fans are used in combination with natural ventilation to obtain adequate dilution, when sufficient ventilation rate cannot be achieved by natural ventilation alone. This table is to show the different types of ventilations. For mechanical ventilation, it is suitable for all climates and weather. It provides more controlled and comfortable environment, and occupants have limited control to effect ventilation. The major disadvantage is it can fail to deliver required ventilation rates through faulty design, maintenance, or operation. On the other hand, natural ventilation is suitable for warm and temperate climates, with lower capital, operational, maintenance costs for simple implementations. It also has the capable of achieving very high ventilation rates. The drawbacks of natural ventilation are, it is easily affected by outdoor climate and occupants' behavior, may be difficult to plan, design, and predict performance, and it reduces the comfort level of occupants in extreme weather. It also cannot achieve directional control of airflow, if required. For mixed-mode ventilation, it is more flexible, energy-saving, relative to mechanical ventilation, and suitable for most climates and weather. The disadvantage is it may be more costly or difficult to design. During H1N1 outbreak, various specific measures need to be done. One of the important measures is school dismissal and childcare facility closure. Decisions regarding broader school dismissal within these communities should be left to local authorities, taking into account the extent of influenza-like illness within the community. Cancellation of all school or childcare-related gatherings should also be announced. Parents and students should be encouraged to avoid congregating outside of the school if school is cancelled. Duration of schools and childcare facilities closings should be evaluated on an ongoing basis depending on epidemiological findings. Consultation with local or state health departments is essential for guidance concerning when to reopen schools. If no additional confirmed or suspected cases are identified among students or school-based personnel for a period of 7 days, schools may consider reopening. During bird flu outbreaks, certain public health recommendations need to be followed, such as avoiding domesticated birds. If possible, avoid rural areas, small farms and open-air markets. It is important to avoid cross-contamination too. Use hot, soapy water to wash cutting boards, utensils and all surfaces that have come into contact with raw poultry. During cooking, make sure to cook thoroughly. Cook chicken until the juices run clear, and it reaches a minimum internal temperature of 165 F or 74 degrees Celsius. In addition, steer clear of raw eggs, because eggshells are often contaminated with bird droppings. Avoid foods containing raw or undercooked eggs. For animal control measures, it includes killing infected flocks, and surrounding at-risk flocks, biosecurity improvements at farm level, and also movement control of poultry in affected provinces. Vaccination of domestic poultry and ducks are important too. Temporary ban on hatching of ducks was done in certain countries during bird flu outbreak, as ducks are known to be asymptomatic carriers. Regarding swine flu, it rarely infects humans. There are 2 to 3 reported cases of such infections worldwide each year. Influenza viruses are not known to be transmissible to people through eating processed pork or other food products derived from pigs. Specific measures to control swine flu involves people working with pigs. They are required to wear PPE. Avoid sharing equipment between units in farm. Vehicles used to transport pigs should always be cleansed and disinfected after each use. feed and other delivery vehicles should not enter the part of the site where the pigs are kept. Keep new pigs separated from the resident herd for at least 14 days, to monitor for signs of influenza and other infectious diseases. Be vigilant for signs of disease and seek the advice of veterinary practitioner if clinical signs of influenza are seen. Swine influenza virus vaccines can be given to pigs to protect pigs. Governments around the world have responded with sometimes extreme reactions against pigs, which has included the official extermination of all domestic pigs in Egypt. Many of these slaughters occurred in Muslim countries, and religious restrictions on the consumption of pork have been cited as influencing the decision to take such action. Many other countries have banned international trade in pigs and pork products. That's all from my presentation today. Thank you and have a nice day.
Okay, so on my topic on airborne infection, is there a question regarding this topic?
Yeah, I have
Okay.
Can surgical masks be used to prevent these airborne infections to taking place?
Well, surgical mask, right, it cannot be replaced by N95 unless you don't have N95, then it's the last solution and you can use surgical mask. Because surgical mask, right, it cannot really filter the aerosol and also the airborne particles from it. So, yeah.
So, how to wear fit check for N95 respirator?
Okay, regarding fit check on the N95, once you wear N95 already, when you inhale, you should make sure there's a slight collapse on the respirator, and when you exhale it, you should be have expansion going on, and there's no like fogging or any like air leakage around the mask. If let's say where you go wear the eye protection, there will be fogging. If let's say there's leakage of air, so then you have to readjust your respirator again.
I have a question. Can a person actually get infected by swine flu just by consuming pork alone?
No. Actually, if your pork is adequately prepared and cooked, which is like more than 70 degrees Celsius, the swine flu virus actually will be killed. So it's actually safe to eat the pork.
I see.
Yeah.
I have another question. Is it common for swine flu to be transmitted from human to human?
Well, this is very uncommon, but it can happen. If let's say those who are working in the pig farm, they have close contact with the infected pigs or to the areas where they are contaminated with the virus, then you can get infected. But it's very rare.
Okay, I see.
So, why in certain countries during the avian influenza outbreak, there's a temporary ban of hosting tax?
Okay, because for this avian influenza, when there's an outbreak, for the like chicken, they will show some symptoms that they are sick, they have certain illness. But for the duck, it's actually the asymptomatic carrier, so you won't know whether the duck has the virus or not. So it's better that to prevent the duck hatching. Maybe this is applied in certain countries like Vietnam. So is there any other question?
I think we don't have for now.
Okay, then I think that's all for my discussion today. Thank you.
Thank you.